Okay, this is the most exciting episode we've ever done. This is episode number 8 of Q&A with Mitch and Jay. And we're so excited to announce our findings. We spent grueling amount of hours together and we figured it out. Finally, I'm glad someone did. Mitch, tell them what we figured out.
Yeah, guys, so excited to share this with you. We have figured out the perfect program, and it's perfect in every regard. You don't need to question it. We're just going to put it in front of you and you're going to nail it, and it's going to be perfect. There's going to be no bumps in the road or anything. And yeah, guys, so just hear us out on this. This is perfect.
We're talking the perfect lifting, the perfect training, the right amount of volume for you, no injuries, where your progress is 100% linear, and you get better every day on this plan. And it's just like every coaching book you've ever read. It's like every training program you've looked at, where there's no bumps in the road. You don't get hurt. Mentally, you're always dialed in.
Yeah.
Like you never have any problems. We have figured out, and we're actually going to give it to you guys for free.
Guys, it's been written out already. We're just going to throw it out there and you guys can use it. Okay. Now, Jay, isn't there an issue here? Because is that realistic to ask for this no bumps in the road program?
Well, the funny thing about like opening that way is that's what we all think we're about to do.
Yeah.
Every time we start a program, we all think that. We're like, this is it. This is the one. It's like love at first sight. You're like, this is the one. This is the one I'm going the whole distance with. The whole training program is going to be absolutely perfect. I'm never going to get injured. It's never going to be hard. Yeah. I'm always going to want to do it.
Yeah. It's going to be just the right amount of challenging. Just right there. On the days where I want to be challenged, it will challenge me. And on the days where I'm not quite wanting to be challenged, it'll be fine. It'll be a very relaxing, easy run. So, yeah.
So yeah, now that we've built you guys up all the way to the top, we're going to take you right back down to the bottom, because you know that training plan actually does not exist. Yeah. And from looking at people's written training plans, when they write it 3 months, 4 months, all of the training plan together, that's called training theory. Like, that's theory. Like, I'm going to write it like that and hope that I can do those things. But we're going to talk about, what do you do when things don't go wrong? How do you navigate that? And Mitch, what do you got for us?
Yeah. So okay, so on the topic of the perfect program, right? So let's say we've got this 4-month training program out. We've got it run in front of us. We just show up and we go, right? Let's look at the factors that are going to affect those. Most of us are going to feel an ache and a pain at some point. Even if you train hard for 2 weeks, you're going to feel an ache and a pain some point, right? The important part about that is, do you know how to address that ache or pain? Do you know why it's happening? Can you move through it, or can you train through it using some certain techniques? It's a crucial part of the process. And I'd put that under the category of trusting your body when we get into something like that. Like, when you're on this mission of the perfect training plan, when you inevitably feel something, you have to initially address it. Like, trust that your body knows the signals it's giving you, and address it. Like, don't wait 3 weeks, or don't wait 10 days after you fell down the stairs to address your ankle that's obviously hurting you and impinging your gait, right? So that would be kind of step one of, how do we look at the future of our perfect training plan, right? Something else that we look at is things like sleep, energy levels. I get a lot of messages throughout the week that have nothing to do with running. Hey, my job required this, this, and this. I'm super stressed about this week at my job. And everyone that's not professionals has to factor that into the training. it really does affect your hobby, your passion, your goals when it comes to physical goals. Like it does affect it. And I think some people are like kind of embarrassed to admit it, or they don't accept that it's going to affect what they do on the track or what they do on the roads. Yeah, what do you think about that, Jay?
So I'll tell a quick story. This past 2 weeks ago, had an athlete text me and say, my foot is in excruciating pain. Like that was the text message. And so immediately called this athlete and was like, okay, a foot doesn't get to excruciating pain. How long has it been hurting?
Yeah.
And she was like, it's been hurting for about a week. And I know this athlete really well. I've been coaching her for a long time. And she's never done this before, but it was just like something was like not clicking mentally with, I need to tell my coach. And so I was a little bit hard on her. I was like, why did you not tell me?
Yeah.
I was like, why? Like, I want to know. Dude, it turns out this was a outside of the foot, fifth metatarsal. So what are you thinking on that? And then I'll tell you what happened. Outside of the foot, fifth metatarsal, it hurts more the more I run.
Yeah.
It's throbbing when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah, like so,
what
like
got?
some sort of stress reaction.
Stress reaction, stress fracture.
Yeah.
And I scared her really bad on purpose. I was like, look, do not run a step for 6 days.
Yeah.
Get crutches. Go to CVS pharmacy, get crutches, get on them right now. Put a boot on. Don't touch the ground for 6 days. And she's mortified, right? But I've been down that path before. And I was like, you can either do 1 week or you can do 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's going to be one or the other. But navigating that path, that was the bump in the road. And end of the story, that was 2 weeks ago, end of the story, 0 pain at day 7.
Yeah.
And so mega averted a huge issue. And we've inched her back into running this last week. But yeah, if you don't communicate that, that's a problem. You can't ignore these things in that thought process of, I've got this perfect training program, I'm just going to not say anything. I think that there's a thought process of, if I ignore it, I don't have to address it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been down that road, especially if you're in like you're feeling really good before you're in like the final stage of your training block. You don't want anything negative to even come up. You don't want to tell anything about, tell anyone about anything negative. You just, but here's the thing. If she had told you a week earlier, she would have been running on that day, right?
It would have been 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it was a week earlier,
yeah.
I maybe would have had her take 2 days off, just knowing her history and whatever. And she would have, that third day, she would have saved herself 4 days off.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because when you pay a coach, and a goal of an athlete of a paid coach, when you're giving that coach money, what you're saying is, hey, I'm going to burden you with all my ups and downs because I'm paying you to get me to this goal. So you write the program and then I'm going to burden you with all my ups and downs. And there should be no hesitancy in that. And I understand why there is, but I feel like getting past that point, like the coach knows that there's going to be ups and downs.
Yes.
So if there's not ups and downs, I'm kind of like, this is going really perfectly.
Well, and we know from physiology that your body is only going to adapt to the level of stress that you provide it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you provide a low level of stress, you're going to get a low amount of adaptation. So yeah, we're always on, and that looks different for different individuals, but we're always trying to skate right on that line of giving somebody as much as they can handle with their work schedule, life. Yeah. But then again, like you said, your work schedule is going to affect your body physically as well. So we've got to take that into account. And,
Yeah.
you know, I know you agree with me, and all of the Run Free coaching staff does. Man, it's a joy to carry that burden with someone.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
that's the thing that people don't realize is that's what coaching is you get to live in the ups and the downs, and the downs make the ups like incredibly fun.
Yeah. Well, I had about an hour and a half call with with an athlete that's been struggling recently. We didn't even talk about running. And he got off the phone saying, "Hey, thanks so much for your time. I really feel better about, the personal stuff that's going on in his life." That's as a coach, that's also the service that I provide. It's like, let's bounce things off each other. Like if we working for a year together, and with my athletes, I'm talking most days to them. That's more than some of your friends. Like we're conversing every day for a year, whether it could be brief, or it could be long. That's the important part, where it's like, you got to build a trust, athlete coach trust, but also coach athlete trust, that they're going to tell you if something goes wrong. And the trust on the athlete side to believe that the coach is not going to be mad, or you shouldn't be embarrassed the fact that, you're not feeling great, whether it's from sleep or injury and all that stuff. All right, so let's get back to our world-class perfect training.
Yeah.
So it's like, what about strength? Okay, because I build a lot of strength programs for runners and athletes of different sports. When we look at strength, I know some coaches like to program a certain amount of time out. I only program a week out. That's as far as I reasonably assume that I could guess how things are going to go. And even then, I'm still sort of modulating workouts in regards to speed, volume, etc. So if you go on a fast run, generally that day would be a day where I put you into some sort of relatively sort of power position in the gym, where we're going to do some deadlifts, maybe squats, but we're going to do something that requires you to put force into the ground. If you go on that run and you say, "Hey, I just couldn't hit, I didn't feel like I had the speed today, or I didn't feel like I could put force into the ground or turn over fast," to me, what you're telling me is like, oh, maybe it could be, you just didn't feel good that day. But there's a number of things we can look at. One of them that goes a lot of the time undressed is like central nervous system fatigue. That's harder. A lot of novice athletes don't know how to determine central nervous system fatigue. So just as a brief explanation, if you go through everything you've done to run well, and you're like, "Yeah, but the eating was on point, like I slept well, I did this well," and you can't quite put your finger on why maybe you feel tired, or maybe you feel lack of coordination, or slightly just 1% less balanced during the day, and then you get to your workout and you say, "I just couldn't turn over, or I couldn't put force into the ground." Generally, all that confusion plus not being able to apply force and turnover and coordination, that to me says, okay, well, maybe the combination of work stress or the amount of stress we've been doing through the buildup has built up to a head now, and we can trust the body. Like, I as a coach trust how you feel, and it's my job to put a label on it and see how we address it. So that would say, like, hey, maybe it's central nervous system. Maybe we shouldn't go lift heavy in the weight room today. Maybe we could do some auxiliary lifts and some coordination based stuff, or stability stuff. And then let's say that's on a Tuesday, and then we'll just, on your next quality workout on Thursday or Friday, that's when we'll see if you sort of come back around, you can turn over, and that's when we'll put a high priority on lifting heavy, lifting fast, all that stuff. I can't see that from a week out. I have to hear about that on that day. And I don't hear about it unless there's good communication. So just another piece that gets in the way of this program that is absolutely perfect, that we all expect, right?
So an interesting thing about central nervous system fatigue is it is harder to feel.
Mhm.
And we can misinterpret it. And for a lot of people, I don't even think that's a category of fatigue.
Yeah.
I don't even know that that can be an area of your body that's not working properly. And you hear terms like my wind wasn't good today. I couldn't
Yeah.
breathe good today, or my legs didn't feel good today. I think a lot of the time is nutritional. And then sometimes it's central nervous system or combination of all of them.
Yeah.
But for me, the sign and the thing that you said that hits home is when you can check off every box is good. That's probably something to do with that neuromuscular system. And then the other thing I always tell athletes, and I've said this before, is when you take time off and you come back, your central nervous system takes a few days to feel good again. For a lot of people, like you feel like uncoordinated, off, wonky, not firing well. Like that's a good time to practice, like listening to your body and feeling what central nervous system down regulation feels like. Because when you don't do anything for a few days, that system starts to shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you hit on something, which is listening. I mean, if I could teach a course on listening to your body, that would be one of the most in-depth courses, because you only get, okay, so in your whole life, this whole, let's say 80 years, you get to live from start to finish. You can change everything. You can change training, nutrition, sleep patterns, where you live, climate, just all this stuff, right? But the whole time you train, the whole time you put stress on your body, the whole time that you change those environments or catalysts, you have the same body. And the fact that some of us don't know how to or want to listen to your body. I mean, your body's been with you since day one. Okay? You have whether you know it or not, you have a relationship with your body. Okay. Your body's been giving you signals through day one. You know what those signals are. You know better than what I do. Right. And I do it for a living. So it's like, you can tell me, if you learn to trust what your body's telling you. Now, you don't have to look at the extremes. If your body's telling you, oh, there's a little bit of this, this, and this, don't take that as like an extreme signal. But listening to your body is so beneficial. And in order to learn to listen, you have to learn to be intentional about the movement quality, the mobility, the soft tissue work, because all that stuff that you do is time that you get to assess your body. And when you assess your body, you get to learn about it. And you learn about where your sticky points are, how you're feeling that day. If you do a mobility circuit in the morning, you can literally say like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good today. And then you know what you know when you're getting into for the day and how you expect to perform during a workout, right? So a couple of instances of when you should listen to your body. If you're on a run on Monday and you feel something, tiniest little thing, but let's say you've never felt it before, don't get consumed with it. Just go home and believe the signal your body gave you and put a little work into that thing. If that thing is nothing, then it's nothing. You've put work in it. If that thing is something, you've put work in it, and maybe you'll feel better, but you'll feel it again. And then you got a kind of a surefire like response to say, okay, this is something. Now let me put all my energy to addressing it. Central nervous system fatigue, like if you just can't figure out what's going on, like learn that feeling, lock it in so that when you do feel it, like you know what you shouldn't be doing that day, and know sort of when you should push through and when you shouldn't, right? When you wake up from a night of not sleeping, it's very easy to correlate not sleeping and not doing well the next day. Like that's easy to do, right? Not a lot of these factors are that easy to do, but listen to your body. If you're tired going into a workout, listen to your body and say, hey, you know what? Like today is not, I'm not looking for a high quality session today. Today is just not the day. And that's okay. Like the odds of that affecting your goal 4 months down the line are almost zero. So I just encourage everyone to like, just listen to your body. But in order to do that, you have to learn how to listen to your body and learn that your body's been with you since day one. You have to trust it, and you know how to communicate with it. Just sometimes I feel like whether it's ego or distractions or goals or whatever it is, something stops us from listening to our body and actually trusting it. And from trusting it, like taking action to address whatever it's been telling.
All right, I got three things for you. First of all, man, how come you're only going to live to 80?
Oh, dude, I'll be shocked if I get there. That was just an average estimate, dude.
Come on, man. I think you're going to go like with, the way things are going, staying healthy, man, unless you like are doing something, a boulder falls on you in the mountains.
Yeah, it seems tiring, dude. I don't know if I'm going to get there. I'm really putting some high stress, high demand on my body, man. I'd be surprised.
I think you got 110 at least, man. 110 at least. Okay, second thing is, I think with the thought process of learning your body and feeling your body, we've got to have more patience and more kindness to our bodies. I think those two things teach you how to feel it.
Yeah.
Because if you take the time, it takes time to listen to those cues and not just brush them aside and move on to the next task.
Yeah.
And then I think it also takes kindness to spend that time on your body and not spend it on other things.
Yeah.
Because that's really like giving back to your body.
Yeah.
Like you're addressing those issues. Okay. So the last question I want to ask is, I feel like you and I have a kindred spirit in the fact of paying attention to small details over the years. And I'll give you a couple examples for me, and I'm interested to hear yours. So I know on my body, my right big toe has about 3 degrees less flexion than my left big toe.
Yeah.
And so I just know that I can feel it. It's there. I work on it. I do a little bit more plantar fasciitis work on my right foot to loosen that up because I like the idea of full mobility. And I'm not necessarily seeking symmetry, but I know that my right toe gets stuck.
Yeah.
I also know my left foot overpronates a little bit more than my right foot does. Again, not trying to solve it, but I'm just aware of it.
Yeah.
And also the way my legs line up, I've got like a little bit of externally rotated right femur, and my left is like dead center. And the other thing that's crazy too is, check this out. So my left and right hand are about a half an inch different size.
Yeah.
So I know you've got injury issues you've worked through before and stuff like that. Like what are the ones that rattle around in your head where you're like,
dude.
Yeah.
Bro, I can start that by saying, let me send you the list later, right? It's like, like, that's the thing, man. Is like, dude, I've been working on my body since I was 4. I won high school nationals in the 2, 4, and the 8, under 15. So I was 15 years old. The next meet, I tore my hamstring. That was my day that the invincibility cloak left me, right? From then, I've been concerned at so that's 15, 36 now. It's 21 years of my life. I'd be concerned at why is one part of my body doing something that the other part is not, right? So I've got a list of 5 things on my feet, dude. But here's the thing. So I got a couple stories on that. First of all, symmetry is not the way. And you know, right? A lot of people do not know that, especially when they send me their form analysis that they got from another company that's got all these specific joint angles, left versus right, and this and this. And not to mention, they're trying to like figure out half of a joint degree at high speed, which will never happen. Also, they're trying to make it perfect somehow. Okay.
Well, you know what I see that as? I see that as they're very observational. They're
Okay,
just
yeah,
and sometimes, but they are, a lot of times they do take observational information to that next level of, we obviously have to correct the observation.
yeah. So here's the story on that, right? So my observation is my right big toe has always been stuck. It's always been stuck. Okay. For that reason, I go a little bit to the more sort of lateral side of my foot. I don't like it. I don't like seeing it when I run because I can tell it's just going like this. My right, everything in my right foot goes a little bit out and my left's just perfect, right? I fixed it because I have those tools and I just solved the puzzle. Well, guess what? My body doesn't like that. So now next thing you know, my calf, because I'm now using my right toe. Well, now my post tib and like my medial side of my gastrocs, like, guys, what are we doing here? And doesn't like it, right? I achieved the ultimate golden goal of symmetry and I got injured. Okay. So that's how you break yourself. If you want to be perfect, you want to look perfect in terms of symmetry, you can do it, but there's a cost. Okay. Secondarily, I'll tell you a Ryan Hall story, right? What was Ryan's best marathon time? I mean, you're talking about half marathon and half marathon. It was, I don't know, it was 59 something, right?
Yeah, like 59:43, I think.
Okay. And then 206.
He ran 2:04:58 at Boston.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
London. Yeah.
So this dude, the goal of this guy, okay, he goes, hey, my right, because we always just bouncing ideas off each other. And he goes, my right leg, it turns out, you know, I've got this pain above my knee. My foot does this. Like he's just pointing out his asymmetries, right? And I said, well, how long has it been doing that? He said, my whole life. And I said, but dude, you ran a 59 and a 204 with those issues. Do you really want to correct them? Because we're talking about that at the peak of human physical performance, you have asymmetries, and everyone does, right? And if you can do that with the asymmetries, doesn't that give you a signal that like, okay, your body works just fine with those asymmetries, right? Asymmetries do not align with they don't sort of dictate the physical performance, right? So like if you can do that and be at the peak of physical performance, you know, one of the best to ever do it, and your femur's out a little bit, it's going to be okay. Just leave it, right?
No, so I totally agree. And the other thing, when you're trying to find that symmetry and you're running, it makes you run way too robotic. And you're not fluid. You're way too intentional. You're trying to land a certain way.
And that control, that minuscule control is going to lead to an injury. Because if you've never done it before, or you have done it just in different ways, the stuff. So I see a lot of IT band stuff. Okay. IT band stuff comes after an initial injury. It's never the first injury. It happens after something, maybe a lower leg or something like that. The reason it happens after an injury is because you came back from that injury through control. You didn't like fix the injury. You said, I'm going to fix it 80% and then I'm going to just control my way through it. Now, all of a sudden, your knee is doing these like minuscule movements with hyper control. And it's like, it's just, it's bringing a whole entire different muscular pattern to your knee. And now your knee, which is supposed to be reflexive and bouncy and everything, is being controlled through these things. And then we get something else like IT stuff, right? So it's kind of, I would always urge that fluidity, like if I'm on the treadmill and I feel my right leg doing something, I have a choice, okay? And I've done this most of my life. I have this choice. I can say, I can correct that because I've been correcting things my whole life. Like I can do that right now. It's going to be great. Right. Or I can say, but I literally feel amazing running right now. I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to like be lazy into it or like accentuate it. But do I feel good? Well, then I'm going to leave it, because if I try and be if I try and change these little tiny muscles firing at different paces and timing's off and my joint angles are different, something else is going to tell me, something else is going to come up and say, hey, you're either controlling it or you're doing something weird at your hip. Or, I mean, there's so many ways to change how a foot lands, right? You can change nothing at the foot and just turn in your hip, and then you're going to change. So when someone says like, change this, your question should be how? Like, where do you want me to change my arch from? Do you want me to turn my foot out, my knee out, my hip out, one of them? Do you want me to skip my knee and then just push off the ball of my foot? It gets weird, man. And that's why I'm a fan of like, leave the asymmetry. If you feel like there's like lack of power or there's a asymmetry in regards to like coordination or timing where it just doesn't feel fluid, or there's an asymmetry of strength, like we can address that through like looking at the system, looking at the way the bones and the joints are interacting and the tendons, and is the soft tissue good, and we can look at all that and correct some of the stuff. But that stuff's for home. That stuff's not for on the fly changes.
Yes, correct. Yeah, 100% on that. Like you don't, like the ideal scenario is you go out and you just run and you feel good. Now, I do like some cues, like you've mentioned a lot, drive your knee and then get to the ground as quick as you can.
Yeah.
Like, and push through the ground. But those are big ideas. Those are not like turn your foot 7 degrees, you know, external rotation. That's ridiculous. Right. But I want to say one final thing on like our asymmetries. Like that's the way God made us.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah. Like, and I'm very similar to you, Mitchell, maybe not quite to the extreme, but I recognize my body, my asymmetries, and I pay attention to them. And they actually, if I'm honest, they kind of bother me a little bit. Like I want things to be perfect.
Yeah.
And when they're not, or they're slightly off, and like, why is my right hand smaller?
Yeah.
You know, like that's frustrating. It's frustrating. Like, and I think maybe I should have been left-handed and then I could have dunked a basketball easier because my left hand's bigger. Like these are the things that rattle around in my head. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the reason we all have asymmetries is that's the way God made us. Our tendons, bones, ligaments, muscles, they're all different lengths. And where you do have an asymmetry, your body and your brain makes up for that in some way with a slightly stiffer right toe, because you have a left foot that overpronates, and then it balances you out naturally. And so, I just, the other thing with asymmetries that is not mentioned a lot is when your nerves come out of your lumbar and your thoracic spine, and they travel out of those holes, the size of that hole and how big that nerve is also changes how things fire and how many nerves have to innervate the muscles in order to get the force out. Yeah. It's like there's so many mind-blowing things that can happen with, if you have slight scoliosis on one side, where your vertebrae turned a little bit and maybe that nerve didn't develop as much. Like there's so many little things, but your body can make up for it in the long run. And I love that we're all like, I feel like we're having like a counseling session to accept our bodies.
Accept your asymmetry. But it almost is, man, because people, I've done it, you can get into the weeds, man.
Yeah.
You know? Think if I start putting, will you lengthen your nerves out on that right side because it looks a little asymmetry, and I'm getting this on your gait analysis, right? This is my picture. And this picture's me personally, because I played like contact sports and all this stuff, right? I was telling an athlete and a friend this week. I wrote out this long email and it came from the heart, and it was saying, and I'll just abbreviate it, but what it said was, I ask a lot of my body. I have always asked a lot of my body. I continue to ask a lot of my body through age, wear and tear and everything, right? I've broken a lot of my body. I've tore it up. I've wrecked it and come back and asked more of it, right? At some point, like this is the vision that I see. I see this caveman that's like 40 years old. He's the oldest caveman on the block, right? Because all the rest of them died at 30. And I see him. He's been sleeping in a cave on a rock, right? And he's been mauled by antlers before. And he's fallen off cliffs before. And he's still there. And he's still hunting. And he's still gathering. And he's carrying his family's belongings to move villages and everything. Is that homie moving perfectly? No way, man. But he's out there. He's doing it. Perfect movement is the goal. Fluidity is the goal. But if you look at your age, your wear and tear, how many lives have you lived? I feel like I've lived 20 lives. By my 30th life, should I be moving perfectly? Absolutely not. That would be unrealistic. But I can still push myself. I can still get out there and do super long runs. I can still go as fast as I physically can and lift super heavy. All of this has risk. And that risk has shown itself in my body profile. Because I've done that risk my whole life, and I've pushed it, I've broken it, I've fixed it, and I've done that whole cycle, and I've just ridden the wave of extremes for 36 years of my life. Be proud of the wave. Be proud of the way you pushed yourself so hard, you got a little bit injured. Be proud that you were able to get yourself out of that injury by putting in a ton of body work and learning body maintenance skills. And then be proud of how you came back and started hitting it again. And, you know, there's only one path, and it looks like this to everyone. And we can't just do the program that Jay and I want to sell, which is this one. It doesn't exist. The perfect program looks like this, and it's hard most days. And there's times where it's not fun, and there's times where it's amazingly fun. But own your asymmetries, own your wear and tear, own your age, own your performance, how hard you push yourself. You know, these are all things that we're in control of on a daily basis. And it's very important to own it and keep going and don't get stuck on it, because when we get stuck on it is when we start getting into the webs of sticky thoughts and ideas that we're too old. Oh, we're done. We're too broken. My knees hurt when I run, all that stuff. This is the journey. Be proud of that journey, learn the skills to go up and down, and just keep it up.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not linear in a sense, because, you know, we were talking before that the ups and the downs, when you get over being down and you do get back up,
yeah,
like that's the joy of being an athlete. That's the joy of being a coach. That's the joy of being a friend, a family member,
a human
yeah.
joy.
Yeah, it is. It's the comeback. Everybody loves the comeback. Everybody.
Yeah.
And so I think that's living in that cycle and accepting it's awesome. Well, that's it for us, guys. If anybody wants a form assessment, we've got a one-time form assessment. If you join Run Free as an athlete, you get assessed as an additional part of your coaching, or it's with your coaching that you get assessed by Mitch. And we've got a camp coming up this summer, super cool, in Flagstaff. Ryan, Mitch, myself, a bunch of our coaches are going to be there. And we've got an experiential camp. So we are going to have some time to feel your body, to learn it, to get back in touch with your training, with how you feel, and hopefully end up being a better athlete. But that's it for Q&A with Mitch and Jay, number 8. Hope you guys have a good one.
Thanks, guys.